Well, actually, I used to write for a comic book website that was based in Southern Ontario here, and I was doing a feature on cosplayers. So I was interviewing cosplayers and finding out how they got into cosplay, why they got into cosplay, what drives them to stay in the hobby. And I was going to culminate this series I was doing by cosplaying at Fan Expo for the first time, and I was going to do Thor. So Stephanie DL Cosplay, I met her and kind of interviewed her, and she loved the idea of me being Thor. So she actually fabricated my Thor suit for me, and she like made it in like 3 weeks and go to Fan Expo. And I was still not really wanting to get into cosplay after that. Well, then a couple weeks after Fan Expo, got invited to go to Big B Comics here in Barrie to help with their anniversary sale. Then that led up to an opportunity to be in the Niagara Falls Santa Claus Parade and Vaughan Winterfest. And then it's like, okay, well, let's do another cosplay. So start doing Captain America. You know, after about a year, I stopped writing for the website. I was having more fun cosplaying, and you know, that's been since 2013.
Yeah. What about you, Robbie?
Before we get to Robbie, here actually, I want to stop us for a quick second here because we kind of started and got right into this before I even hit the record button.
Oh,
so I just want to make sure everybody knows who's actually with us. Thanks for joining us back on another episode of the Geek Boutique, everybody. As you can see, Ed just gave us his story. I actually got all of your story, Ed, so that's great.
Perfect.
On how he started cosplaying. We are doing a cosplay episode today. Maybe I'll let Jeff explain a little bit of what he just said. We've got Robbie back with us as well. This is going to be a wicked episode. I need a little bit of motivation, guys, actually, to get into making my next costume. So I'm hoping that everybody's stories here is going to give me a little bit of that oomph to go and make my next cosplay. But Jeff, do you want to take this off? Do you want to not take this off, but take this on and repeat a little bit of what you said earlier about.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure.
Now that we're
for sure. I wanted to do an episode on cosplay, but specifically I wanted to talk about male cosplayers. Not necessarily the struggles that we have, but I mean, there's clearly a difference. And by the way, just for if any of you watching or any of you listening, when we're talking about male and female, we are talking about those who identify as male and those who identify as female. So we're not excluding our trans men and women, brothers and sisters. We're talking about anybody that identifies as each gender. There is definitely a difference between male and female cosplay, and I just wanted to get a chance to talk about it. The last episode on cosplay we had two very talented female cosplayers on, and they were able to give us some insights on what it's like to be a girl in cosplay. Now I want to have two guys on and talk about what it's like to be a guy cosplayer, and I wanted to make sure that I had people that had different levels of cosplay experience. As I mentioned before, Ed is our godfather of cosplay. Whenever we talk about guys doing cosplay, Ed's the first name that comes up. And then Robbie now is a little bit newer too, but has dove in with both feet and brings some massive geek cred with him too. So I wanted to get us, since we're all on different levels, I wanted to get as many different perspectives on this as I could. So Ed has been good enough to share how he got into cosplay in the first place. So yeah, Robbie, give us your story. What sparked the interest for you? What was your first cosplay?
Well, I just always loved Halloween, so I would always go way more all out than everybody else, you know. So when everybody else on Halloween would be wearing some, you know, Spirit Halloween costume, I had bought a $200 Robin suit.
Yeah, you did.
So one year, Vernon Wells, who played a villain in Power Rangers Time Force, was at Forest City, I think. And me and my friend, he just came with me, so I had someone to go with. And we were there, and there was a guy in a Dark Knight Batman suit. Looks amazing. And he comes up to us and says hi to us by name. And I'm just like, hi, Batman? And it ended up being someone we went to high school with, and my friend blurted out, oh, Robbie here has a Robin suit. Why don't you guys go together next time? So he dragged me out a few times, and then I loved it. And my first real cosplay, rather than the Robin suit, which was more of a Halloween costume, was my Arkham City Nightwing.
Nice. What about you, JS?
Like you kind of mentioned earlier, I don't really consider myself a cosplayer. Actually, I consider myself more of a prop maker. I got into cosplaying because I wanted to make a lightsaber, And I dove in online on YouTube and started learning different techniques. And one thing led to another. And after building my lightsaber, I decided, well, if I'm going to build a lightsaber, I might as well build a costume to go with my lightsaber. And my Revan was born. My first build, which became my first cosplay, which actually, when I met you, was the first time I wore that cosplay out in person.
Oh, really? Oh,
that was my
very cool.
first time wearing that cosplay out in person.
That's wild. I did not know that.
Yeah. And that's really how I got into it. It was all about making something, and then I've been making more stuff, and some become more of a cosplay than other stuff that sits on my shelf, but that's how it worked out for me.
That's very cool. Yeah. I went to Forest City Comic-Con, the first one that was here in London, just in my civvies. I didn't even think about cosplaying. And I saw a hat that was labeled the Hero of Canton, which was Jane Cobb from Firefly. And I pointed it out to the guy that I was with, my buddy Dennis. I was like, oh, it's a really cool hat. And for Christmas that year, he got me that hat. And for a while, it was wintertime. I just wore the hat around just because it looked goofy and silly. And I like being goofy and silly. And it occurred to me when I went to that first Forest City Comic-Con, I'm watching guys walk around in costumes. I was like, it's kind of dope, actually. That's pretty cool. Because it seemed like they were interacting with the con on a deeper level than just someone that was there to shop or whatever. So I just went to a local surplus store and I just started putting Jane together, and I went out on the first free comic book day as Jane Cobb, and then I went to a couple of different conventions as Jane Cobb too, and I loved it. The fans of that show are like a niche fan. It's a small group, but everybody that saw me knew what I was doing, and they were into it. So yeah, that's kind of where it started. Having said that, though, guys, I wanted to ask you too, did you guys at some point early on have kind of like a light bulb moment? Like, was there a singular moment, or maybe even a singular event where something happened while you were in cosplay and you were like, this is, I want to keep doing this? Was it just a series of events, or was there something that happened to you specifically, an interaction with somebody that just was kind of like this is super cool, I want to keep doing this?
Well, for me, so the beginning of the show there, when I was talking about doing the Niagara Falls Santa Claus Parade in 2013, after the parade, Stephanie and I went down to the falls as Thor and Loki.
Oh, cool.
You know, we just stayed in costume. It's like, let's go down to the falls. Let's goof around. When you start realizing that people come from all over the world to look at one of the natural wonders of the world, and you got like 200 people lined up to have their picture with Thor and Loki, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, these people traveled to the falls specifically to see this water go over this edge, and here they are standing in line to get a picture with us. And I'm like, okay, this is fun. Like, this, it really fed the ego. And then, from there, just sort of grew into doing this for like 8 years later. So,
but that was kind of like your aha moment.
Yeah, that was
like,
yeah. That's where I was like, okay, there's a bit of this that obviously a part of my psyche needs.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Robbie? Did you had that moment, or was it just something that sort of like snowballed and progressed on its own?
I think it mostly just snowballed, just because I always loved to dress up and go to a party or something, because that was all I really knew of. I didn't really ever go to cons, but the first one I did go to with my friend Brett that did the Dark Knight suit. Like, he spent ridiculous money on this suit, so it looked just like screen accurate 100%. And we went to this con, and so someone's stopping us every 5 seconds for a picture. Sometimes they would say, "Oh no, just Batman, please," and that was fine. But we ended up meeting up with this group of Batman villains. So so I just wanted a picture of the group, and then it was once we stopped for the picture, everybody just wanted to take the picture. So it was nonstop for about 10 minutes. And, everybody was just so excited to get a picture with us that just made me want to keep doing it, because it was making so many people so happy,
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
JS? I know you don't consider yourself a cosplayer, but
yeah,
something's got to keep you going.
I don't know that I've ever had that aha moment up until, to be honest, Fan Expo this year. Or at least not in the sense that, Ed and Robbie are talking about. I always did it just because I like making stuff. Wearing it is just a byproduct of me making stuff. Fan Expo though. Like I said, like these two just said, I got that reaction for the first time at Fan Expo, and I've said this a couple weeks ago where we're in front of cosplayer row. I don't know what they call it, where all the professional cosplayers have their tables set up, and people aren't lined up to go see and take pictures with them. There's 200 people lined up to come take pictures with us, and it's like, oh, wait, what? is this for real?
And
So
wait until it's the big Fan Expo when you got the 120,000 people show up.
Well, exactly, right? So I had never had that real crazy, whoa, like this is a little intense, type moment. And you're right, Ed. It feeds your ego. And I mean, it's an adrenaline high. It is a high. I can't deny that. Because I could have gone for 3 straight days of doing that. I mean, I couldn't, but I that's how I felt in that moment. I'm like, I'm doing this forever now.
There's nothing better than a cosplay that hits with people and feeds that high, and nothing worse than a cosplay that's a dud and nobody gets.
I'm actually, that's going to be a follow-up after this, because I want to actually explore that a little bit with what you guys are saying, because I had the same similar kind of moment the first time I went out as Negan, which became sort of like my signature cosplay very early on. And I've told this story before, but I went for lunch on the second day of the con, and I was still dressed as Negan when I went for lunch. And I just went to Subway, and I'm in line at Subway, and I feel this tap right around my kidneys, and I turn around, and there's a little old lady there. I'm still in full Negan, got the bat, the scarf, the leather, everything else. She's probably in her 80s. She's maybe 5 feet tall, maybe 5 feet tall. I look down and she looks up at me, and with her whole body, she looked me dead in the eye and she said, "I hate you." She was so mad. She was so incensed with that particular character. And because of my resemblance to the guy that plays the character, for me, I was like, oh shit, I get to affect people on a deep emotional level. And all I did was put on a scarf and a leather jacket. This is all I had to do to affect somebody at that point, where this lady had to stop somebody she didn't know in a Subway and tell them how much they hated them with such passion. I was hooked. I was all done. And Ed, I'm really, really glad you brought that up, because I actually had that written down here as far as, is that sort of the, like when you get something that hits and everybody's super excited, you do get that adrenaline rush, you get that emotional high, because I mean, you're putting yourself out there. Let's be fair. Cosplay is a performance art, right? Like you're putting on a costume, and you're trying to embody a character, and you're going out and interacting with people, and you want to get that reaction. So when you don't, how discouraging is that to you? Like what would you say has been, quote unquote, your worst experience putting on a costume and going out? Now, I know not everybody really, like some people don't care. Like I put on the costume and I thought it was great. Nobody liked it, but who gives a shit? It can still be pretty demoralizing. Like what was your biggest moment where you were just like, well, all right, that kind of sucked? I'll tell you mine real quick, and then I'll let you guys answer. The first time I did Kingdom Come Superman, I went to Con Bravo as Kingdom Come Superman. I've only done Kingdom Come Superman one time, and it was at that con, and one guy knew what I was doing and just said, "Hey man, that's a really cool Kingdom Come Superman." And I never did it again, because I know. And it was,
if I had seen you, even if I didn't know you at all, I would have freaked out.
Okay. Hey, to Kingdom Come Superman's defense, you went to Con Bravo. That's not a comic book con. That's a anime con.
Anime and gamer con. I agree. It was definitely the wrong venue, but I was a pretty noob. I think that was like my third costume ever. I didn't realize, so I wore it. And again, I didn't expect people to like mad rush me or anything, but after the high of being Negan and then hitting that, and nobody wanted anything to do with me, I was pretty dejected at that point. And I literally haven't worn the suit since, because it was so demoralizing at that point. So not saying I never will, but yeah, that was a tough blow. What about you guys? Did you have one that you thought would be better and it turned out it didn't, whether it be the venue or whatever? It still makes you feel like crap, regardless if you chose the wrong venue or not. You still feel like shit.
my first version of Star-Lord, when I took it to Fan Expo, it went big. Like there wasn't a lot of Star-Lords at that point, and it went over really well. And like I got a lot of cool like video and photos. Like I was with Dr. Stevel that weekend, and so like got to interact with Kay Pike and all that kind of stuff. Now I would never, like, I've updated it. I would never wear what I originally did. Like it's so sad looking. But again, that was 2004.
Even though it
Yeah,
got good
like
reaction, it's still, yeah.
Oh yeah, like comparing, but also 2014 cosplay is different than 2018 cosplay, different than 2021 cosplay.
Right.
Like
Right.
there were things that were acceptable back in 7 years ago that you couldn't do now. Like I know cosplays for everybody, and every cosplay is acceptable, but I'm not comfortable with it. Like I just, even when I go back and look at the photos, one of them was used by Marvel for Marvel Custoberfest, and I'm like, how the hell did they use that picture? But it was still, again, 2014. A lot of things you could get away with then.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I'm trying to think what another one. I've got a few cosplays I've done once and I've never done again, like Ego from Guardians 2. One fan expo, that's it. Never done it again. It's sitting in one of these black and yellow bins behind me.
I really like that cosplay. What about you guys, Robbie, JS? Have you had that moment where you thought something would be? I know, JS, you haven't done a ton of different cosplays, but
I wouldn't say I'm not someone that really cares if people get it or not. One thing I wanted to do when I started cosplaying, because I'm a big Power Rangers guy, and all I ever saw people do was Mighty Morphin. So I wanted to do a different color every time from a different season every time. So when I've done like the Blue Ranger from SPD, I don't think anyone knew what it was. They just knew it was a Power Ranger. So that's kind of good enough for me. But it doesn't go over like the Green Mighty Morphin does. Green Mighty Morphin, I have people screaming Tommy at me from across the venue, coming running. Literally, this happened. And when I've done Blue SPD or Red Time Force, people just are kind of like, "Oh, is that a Power Ranger? Oh, okay,
Now, with your Green Morphin one, is it because of that generation? Even though it's only like 4 or 5 years between each iteration of the show, is it that generation they're jazzed for that? And maybe in about 4 or 5 years after, then Time Force or the other ones will hit.
It's like Mighty Morphin is the peak of this franchise in popularity and mainstream attention. So that's what everybody knows. Yeah. Depending on the age, really, because, kids that come along later will know whatever was on when they were a kid. But Mighty Morphin's the one that, like, my grandmother knows what it is, So I will add in that one that went over huge that I didn't expect anyone to pay any attention to was Shazam.
But your Shazam was dope.
Well, thank you.
Like, it looked really good.
When I wore that at the Fan Expo, I was getting stopped constantly, and I didn't think anyone was going to care about Shazam. But, obviously it's because of the movie, and although I was doing the comic book version, it's essentially the same suit. So, that was really nice to see so many people excited to see Shazam,
Well, plus when you did Shazam, there wasn't a lot of Shazam cosplayers at that point either.
No, I didn't see anybody else. I saw some Shazam family cosplayers, but I don't think I saw another Shazam. I saw Black Adam. Yeah,
I remember that was our DC day. I think I was Joker. I think Mike was Batman. I think Ed was Superman, and that's when they had the big DC group. And then you like walked by our giant DC group when we were on that level 600 in front of the mural, and we were like, "Ah, Robbie Shazam!" And we got you in to do all the things because it looks so great. So, no, that's no, of course, absolutely. JS, what about you?
I don't know that I've ever had that one really dud type costume. The one weird experience that I've had is with my Red Hood. Can't tell you how many times I get asked when I wear that costume, "Are you Deadpool? How do I look like freaking Deadpool? Like, what's wrong with you people?"
I can outdo that.
So I get that all the time when I wear that costume. I don't get it. I get that Red Hood is not, for us he's mainstream, but for normies that don't really know who Red Hood is. So I get they wouldn't know, but that's really the only weird thing. Actually, talking about Red Hood, when I wore Red Hood at Fan Expo, I've got a picture with a Snyder, Batfleck Batman, And in the background, Ed, you're there in your Thor costume.
Ha!
Sweet.
Sweet.
I was going through old pictures last week, and I look at that picture, and I look at the background, and I was like, wait a second, that's Ed.
So that must have been.
I'll have to find it and send it to you.
That must have been 2019.
No, that was earlier than that, I think.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
That was maybe 18?
Yeah, it could be 18 because I did Thor for 2 fan expos. So
Yeah, maybe 18.
it's the last time I did Thor at Fan Expo. That's when we had the big Asgardian group. So like Megan and Erica and Ariana were with us, and Ash and Dana. So
you're doing a different costume, basically. Well, you do multiple costumes every Fan Expo. Like every major con, you've got a whole new lineup of costumes for that con, and then the next time you're rolling out all different costumes again.
Right now is trying to get through the backlog of everything that I acquired during 2020, and I already got 2022 plans. Like my Batman, I've never had it to an event yet, and that
which Batman did you?
My mix of Batman, it's a new 52 cal mixed with a Batflex suit. And it's sort of my own cobbled together version of Batman. And I started working on it in December 2019, and I haven't even more to invent. I haven't even done one photo shoot with it yet. So that's the big thing, is especially going forward. Like I've got plans for 2022. Well, I'm still trying to get the 2020 stuff out and seen.
No,
you're in a good spot when you're 2 years ahead of your cosplay game.
Yeah, and I think we're all kind of in that boat. Like there's a whole trunk of stuff that I haven't gotten to wear yet that I had acquired over the course of the pandemic, right? We're almost 2 years, right? Without any cons. I didn't just sit around doing nothing. So
some of the things you get are out of fashion or out of popularity by the time you're ready to wear them.
Absolutely. 100%. Something that was hot for like 6 months, a year and a half ago, you're like, well, shit. What am I gonna do with that now? No one's gonna know what that is.
There's $400 down the drain.
Yeah.
How many have you done, Ed? Because I've done 9 since the pandemic started.
Since the pandemic, okay, so just since pandemic?
Yeah.
Probably 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So now I've got photo shoots for most of them.
Yeah, I've done at least a little something with about half of mine, I would say.
Now, some of them, like I just bought an Ant-Man suit because
cool.
Ant-Man, I started doing Ant-Man in 2016, and I bought a new suit, bought a new helmet. The only thing is I didn't like the accessories, so I'm 3D printing everything, so he's going to take a little bit of time.
Oh yeah.
But I really love the suit. I got it from Pro Cosplay, and that's one of the things that I've changed over the years of doing this for 8 years. I used to fabricate a lot of my stuff in the beginning. Now I just like cosplaying. Buy it, get it, modify it to work even better. So I find it's quicker and easier and cheaper.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. I mean, it could sometimes be way cheaper to just buy the costume and you're done.
Yeah.
In some instances, when you start making every single prop and every pieces, and I mean, it's never ending. Sometimes it's.
Well, like one of the challenges is you could spend multiple hours building something, days, weeks, months, years working on something. And then somebody else could buy a suit off of, name whatever website. You show up at an event and people, oh, cool suit. And then they see the next person dressed as a similar character and be like, oh, cool suit. Like you could either buy it and wear it or fabricate it and get the same reaction out of it. So I'm sort of, just buy it.
I mean, I would challenge you and say
I'm not that.
Yeah, I would challenge you and say that really depends. I mean, there are some occasions where something that is fully custom made is just, you're not going to buy anything off the shelf for anywhere close.
Yeah.
Perfect example of this. You're not going to buy anything like this for what it cost me to make it.
No, but I think Ed's point is a
Star-Lord suit.
A normal person coming up to you at the con doesn't care Like
No, they
everybody that
don't
interacted
at
with
all.
you,
Yeah.
if I bought that suit from you tomorrow and I wore that suit, that
You would get
Predator
the same
suit to a con,
reaction.
of course, because they don't
For sure.
care that I didn't make it. Some of the
No.
deep nerds and the crafters and the makers will geek out about stuff that's made and not made. But do you think
think
the
I had 2
straights and
people
the
ask me.
normies, yeah, they don't
no.
care. It looks dope. Who cares if it was made or
Well,
printed
like-
or bought or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like
Like
even
they-
this past Fan Expo, I was wearing my Ronin suit, and I had some people come up, "Oh man, awesome suit!" I'm like, "Oh, cool. Can I get a photo?" "Yeah, sure." And they're like, "Oh, I love Mortal Kombat so much." I'm like, "No, this is Ronin from Marvel." And they're like, "Oh, well, what's that?" Well, I guess now if they're watching the Hawkeye show on Disney Plus, now they'll know who Ronin is.
Yeah, like the only time where I'd say, because a lot of times I get my stuff commissioned, so I'm essentially just paying to buy the suit. But like the Aquaman, I was never gonna find one what I wanted, because I'm just gonna find printed spandex. But I wanted those scales to pop, so
Yeah. Did you ever? Jesus. What?
it took
Oh.
a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you
I
know.
remember. I remember even helping out with a little bit of it here and there, or just
You
watching
did, yes.
you and Alicia just sitting on a floor, cutting out
Oh,
endless scale after endless scale out of craft foam.
I was cutting and gluing scales with a buddy of mine when we went to Toronto for some wrestling shows, because I wasn't going to finish this in time unless I did these arm pieces that weekend. So yeah, it took forever, but for me, it was worth it.
No, that's fair. I do want to kind of segue back to, if we could, guys, talking about some of the challenges of being a guy in cosplay, in the cosplay community, in a hobby essentially, or in a community that is largely dominated by women, by females. Just go onto Instagram, search, and just type in #cosplay, and you're going to find that probably a good 75 to 80% of what you're going to see is at least going to have a girl in the photo that's cosplaying. She might be with a guy, she's probably on her own, but you're going to see maybe 20 to 25% of those photos are going to have a guy in it. So, and that's just off the top of my head. I don't have any hard, fast numbers from you guys, but you guys have been to cons, you guys have been in the community, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not fronting. And if you look at even the cosplay guests at a lot of these cons, especially the bigger cons, you're going to notice a huge disparity between how many of the guests are female and how many of the guests are male. Difficulty online, getting, likes and follows. If that's something that you're after, it can be difficult when you're just a guy, as opposed to some girls, and I'm not trying to generalize, but some girls have an easier time doing it just because a lot of the fan base is guys and a lot of the cosplayers are girls. So talk to me about your feelings on how, do you feel it's challenging being a guy in a largely female dominated hobby? Do you not consider that, or you do not think about that? Where do you guys stand on the disparity between the two groups?
I would say for me, I don't think I think about it that much anymore, because whenever I'm at a con, I'm with Alicia. So like when I was cosplaying by myself, yeah, I'd be walking around the con and I probably wouldn't get stopped that much. But when we're doing a couples thing, people want a picture of that. So it doesn't feel most of the time like I'm not getting the attention because I'm a guy. But yeah, I definitely can remember times where I thought where I felt like that, for sure.
Ed, JS, thoughts? Oh, Ed's got some stuff. He's got some stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to
Okay.
rethink what I'm about to say as well, because I don't know that I want to say out loud what I'm thinking
All right.
right now.
Hey, man,
So
this is safe space.
one of the challenges being broadcast live on the internet.
Yeah, that's right. That's fine. It's all fine.
So one of the challenges, especially being a guy in the mid 40s and trying to cosplaying, you don't get the same reach. Like, even maybe if I was a guy, maybe if it was in mid 20s, I might be able to hit a certain section of the public. But being in my mid 40s, I'm not like, even just trying to get the numbers on reach, follows, likes on Instagram is tough, because I find a lot of times if I post a picture by myself, bare minimum, I'm not really getting it. I find when like I post pictures with cosplay partners like Allison I usually get a lot more. So, And I also find too, there's certain photos that I can post and I know what I'm going to hit. Like if I post anything like Hawkeye and Black Widow, that always gets a lot more. Or if I post Green Arrow and Black Canary, that hits more than other characters. But that's where I sort of look at what people might be looking for in cosplay, that they might not be looking for the craftsmanship, the creativity in the photo. They might be just looking for the thirst trap stuff. So there is that challenge, but I think now, like, I've been at this long enough, and again, I'm 46 now. I've hit a certain level, so I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. I just put it out there. Whatever sticks, sticks. Now, I'm not trying to take away from that whole, when it comes down to female cosplayers, whether they're into the sexy cosplays or the skimpy cosplays, you know, I'm not taking away from that. There's different realms or different levels of cosplay for everyone. You know, there's a full range of it, but I guess it's just, hey, for what we do, this is what we are. So I'm happy with what I'm doing. It's just a matter of, I have certain numbers I'd like to get to. I don't know if I'd be able to do it by myself.
That's fair.
You know, it helps having a female partner.
For sure.
Or a female teammate.
Come on, JS.
Yeah, I'm trying to tread very lightly here. I 100% agree with what Ed just said. I think if you're trying to monetize, or if you're doing it if you're trying to build a following as a male cosplayer, the bar is much, much higher. You know, like you said, Ed, you know, guys in of our age group, there's no interest in what we do, really. It's got to be something really, really crazy for you to be able to build a following off of something that we do. You got to work that much harder. You got to put out that much more content. You got to, you know, and again, I don't, like Ed said, it's not taken away from anybody. You know, if I was a hot young female, let's say, I would be doing what I can to build a following and monetizing it just as much. I would probably be doing a lot better than I'm doing now, but I certainly would. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the audience, really. I think it's the audience we got to keep in mind, right? We're saying it's a female-dominated industry, but that's because the audience is mostly male, I think. So the audience, the people that consume cosplay content being mostly male, I think is why you're seeing mostly female cosplayers in the industry. I could be out to lunch, but that's a feeling I'm getting.
I would probably refute that a little bit. Just having gone to so many cons over so many years now, I would say it's still, and I think the winds of change are happening a little bit now. I think it's probably a little bit more balanced now. But Ed, you can probably speak to this too. I feel like the physical numbers, I feel like, because so much of what cosplay is lends itself to what have typically been female driven things: hair, wigs, makeup, sewing, like things that females have classically been always very good at. Even anime, which is one of the key drivers for cosplay. I don't know. In my experience, there's physically been so many more female cosplayers than male cosplayers, which makes it more competitive on that side of the fence for them, I'm sure. But at the same time, with what you're saying, meaning no disrespect, the path can be much easier for a female cosplayer should they choose to follow that path.
Be careful what you mean by easy. I'm not saying that. It depends what your goal is, because female cosplayers have struggles that we have no clue about.
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking specifically what we're referring to: the likes, the follows, yes, the guest spots, the monetization. This into a business. Yeah, that's really not an option for the vast majority of male cosplayers, and female cosplayers, I would say, have, maybe easy is the wrong word. They have a path to be able to do that really we don't have. And if that's your goal or that's what you're after, it can be challenging for you. And each of us may have different goals. Ed has said, you know, he wants to be able to have more people to see his work. And to do that, he's got to get more reach, and he's got to get more likes, and he's got to have more eyeballs on his work. Robbie's not as concerned with that. Maybe for me, it's more like I would love to have a guest spot at Fan Expo. That's not going to happen on any level ever. That's just, it's not physically possible. But if I was, you know, a 25-year-old female cosplayer that was okay with maybe not, you know, cosplaying in such a manner that was going to draw attention, then I would have an easier path to get there. Yes, you're going to deal with some more shit from terrible humans, but that's just the way it is. Is it a level of frustration for you guys? Like, does it hit a point? I know, Robbie, you're kind of like on the fringe on this. It's not really a big deal for you because you mostly cosplay with your girlfriend, which is great. But do you find that the fact that there's such a glass ceiling for us, like you can just only hit a certain point and you're just not going to get past that point unless you take some extreme measures or enlist some help or whatever it is? Is that frustrating for you guys at all, or do you just kind of take it in stride now?
It's kind of like a cosplay that hits. So when I post a picture and I get, you know, 100 plus likes or something like that, then it's like, all right, that's the high. If I post something and it duds, okay, that's the low, but it is what it is. So it's, you know, same like Fan Expo. When you show up and people get your cosplay, it's a great day. If they don't get it, wasn't a great day, but it's still a day in cosplay. So that's how I view it. There's still nothing better like when you have something that kind of goes viral and you get the likes, the follows, the comments, the shares. That's, you know, that's a good Instagram day.
Mm-hmm. Like, I would say that I don't worry about it too much. Like, even getting into this, I didn't think I would be, that people would look at, but it's just my personality. I didn't think people would look at me as a great cosplayer. I would be fine, you know, average. So when a post gets 100 plus likes, amazing. You know, but I'm not ever expecting it, so it's always a nice surprise. You know?
Yay! The internet likes me today. Yay!
Yeah.
It's also funny.
Like sorry, go ahead, Ed.
I was about to say, it's funny when you can tell, you know, a guy cosplayer's level or expectations versus somebody else's, where it's like, hey, we get 100 likes. It's a great day.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It would be like 100 likes.
Right? Yeah.
You know, I'm quitting cosplay. This is a waste of my time. Why am I even doing this? And it was like, oh, 3 digits in the hearts. Oh, man,
I made it.
Yeah, like by far the biggest post I've ever had was like 700. And it was a full Mighty Morphin group. So it was all 6. So anything Mighty Morphin I post seems to get a lot. But yeah, when it was the full roster, those always go pretty huge.
Yeah.
That's the biggest I've ever had. By far.
Yeah, I feel like it's so very relative. Like Ed said, right? I mean, for me, if I hit 100 likes, I mean, that's one of my top liked pictures. You know, ask Cutie, who was here a couple weeks ago. If she's getting 100 likes, that's probably one of her lowest like pictures she's ever had, if not her lowest. Yeah. You know, so it's very much relative, right? So I think that when you put something out and you get those 100 likes, even though it's only 100 likes, you still get that, oh wow, that's cool. Like, you know, people are liking what I'm doing. You know, and then you put something out and it gets 4 likes and you're like, oh, well, okay. Well, maybe I screwed up in my tags. You know?
Well, because we've talked before, sometimes it seems it's just the Instagram algorithm too, right? Like it
is. You're right.
Right. I had that recent post where it's 3 random pictures. I'm not any of them. It's just 3 random pictures of cosplay plans I have for 2022. It has over 10. It has over 10,000 likes. No post of mine is even close to it. It's so stupid, but just that day, the Instagram gods. It's. I'm not joking. It's literally like it was my 1400th post in 3 years or 4 years, whatever it's been. So you just won the lottery. The Instagram gods were like, we're going to put this on our explore page. Almost 500,000 people have seen that post. I'm not in it, I didn't get me any like massive following. It didn't go, it's not me going viral. It's my random post of 3 pictures on the internet of Timothy Olyphant, of drawn Blue Beetle, and Robert Pattinson Batman. It sometimes it just, you can't, that's what I'm finding more and more as I'm getting more and more down the road and I'm getting less and less interested in chasing the likes and follows, is if you start to really try to bake down on what it is that people want to see, you could JS, you and I could take a picture together and you could post it and get 1,400 likes, and I could post the exact same picture with the exact same hashtags and get 12. It just seems like when you're trying to figure out the algorithm, you're ice skating uphill. It's just whatever they deem at that particular moment in time, right?
Well, that's exactly how it works, right? It works on the basis of how many likes it gets over time, and the quicker it's getting likes, the more it propagates it, right?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like that post that I'm referring to, you can see when you have a business account, you can see the insights. And it didn't get it because it had hashtags, and it didn't get it from my followers, and it didn't even get it from people that are just seeing it in their feed. It got it because Instagram in that moment decided to put it on their explore page. So when you would hit you would see it. So it was one of the big posts in the explore page.
Yeah.
Nothing I did impacted that on any level. The gods came down from Olympus and just blessed that particular post, and it went bananas. And who gives a
all
shit?
sorts of crazy stuff like that, right? Like we're a tiny channel here, right? Like we've only got like 300 followers. I got this one video that's got like 18,000 likes, and it's, the comments are mainly people bitching at me because I screwed up something that I said. So I gotta make a follow-up to that video. But yeah, like most of my videos get like 20 likes, 20 views, you know?
Views,
And this one has like 18,000, and it's like, what the hell happened? Where is this coming from? So yeah, who knows how it happens, but
Ed's got
it is sometimes frustrating. Like, so what you were saying earlier, it can be frustrating when you see somebody that. Now, again, I don't want people to think I'm pointing fingers at anybody here, right? But remember that mean girl in high school that hung out with the cool guys, and they used to make fun of you because you were a nerd, and then all of a sudden that mean girl now is putting on a Deadpool mask and underwear and taking pictures and is a cosplayer. Well, you know what? Like, screw you. Like, well, why are you getting 10,000? Like, you're that bitch. Sorry, but that used to pick on us, and all of a sudden you're monetizing like the stuff that I like.
I think this is the point. This is the part that you were worried about saying it out loud.
Yeah,
and
exactly. So I have an issue with
fine.
that type of stuff, right? Again, I don't want people to get any ideas. If you are capable of monetizing doing this, please do. I mean, I would. I would. But it is frustrating when you're seeing people that use, like I said, that used to pick on us because we were geeks, that are turning around and then monetizing that, and they're getting all the attention, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter how many hours you put in your costume, they're still going to get the likes. So there is that frustrating part for sure. And sorry, again, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm pointing the finger at them.
It's funny you just said that, JS, because I remember back in 2013, 2014, I was helping out the local comic book shop. I was dressed up as Captain America. I think it was Civil War was coming out, and we're promoting it, and we were giving out free comic books to support the comic book shop. And I'm going down the line of all these people waiting to go in to see Civil War, and I go up to people and it's like, hey, over at our booth here, we're giving you free comic books. If you're interested, stop by. And the guy's like, why would I want a comic book? I'm like, well, because they're free, plus you're standing in line to see a Captain America movie. And they're like, yeah, but why would I read a comic book? And I'm like walking away from them, and it didn't make sense to me. Like, it's the same sort of thing. Like, why are you getting into the hobby if you, I don't know, maybe it's because I've been in it so long, or reading comics and all that, like geekdom for so long. It's like, it's everything. It's the movies, it's the comic books. Same with the cosplay. Like, if you're cosplaying a character and you don't know who the character is, like, why?
Yeah, and I get that it's different for everybody, right? Everybody gets into it for a different reason. Everybody likes different things, and not everybody has to like everything. I don't like everything. I don't know everything. Robbie knows way more about everything Batman than I do, and I still cosplayed Red Hood. You know what I mean? Like, so again, there's something for everybody.
Yeah.
But there, we can't hide that there are some frustrations sometimes that come out of some of these situations.
No, for sure. And that leads me to my next point. Do you guys see things changing? Are the winds of change blowing? Is there more room now that cosplay culture and geek culture are irrevocably tied together? And there's never been a time where geek culture has been more popular. The most popular movie of all time is Avengers Endgame. Geek and nerd stuff is mainstream. People on the street know who Iron Man is or Captain America is. And 15 years ago, they had no idea who those characters were. It's our time. It's a geek renaissance. So there's never been a better time for cosplay. Do you see this changing to a point where there are more paths for us? There are more, we will be able to generate more attention, or we will be able to generate a monetization style, or we will be able to get where we want to go goals wise, guess at cons and events or whatever. Or do you see us, we've just, the glass ceiling is there and that's what it's going to be. And I'm sorry that you're a middle-aged man, but this is what you get to do. And that's it.
It's kind of the way I see it. I mean, I think it is what it is, and I don't think it's going to change. And that's okay.
We've plateaued.
Yeah.
I think we've plateaued
If we were
just
Robbie's
because
age, you know.
I am coming up from it from a bit younger, not like tremendously, but I think there's more room now than there was when I started for male cosplayers. But is Fan Expo going to bother giving any of us a guest pass? Probably not.
No.
You know.
See, I think we've plateaued just because there's more people in the hobby now than what there was 10 years ago. So, like, it's tough to be number one when there's a whole lot more people in the race.
What about you, JS?
Yeah,
You're saying this is pretty much where we're at and we just have to accept it, basically?
I mean, and to go back to what you were saying, I also kind of feel that the comic. Okay, so I'm going to use some analogies here. So I'm not saying that they're directly related, but these are more analogies than anything else. The comic book's golden age was really for Gen Xers. So in the 80s and early 90s is when the comic books were at the top of their game, and after that things started slowing down to a point where now, you know, DC has shut down most of their books. They've laid off most of their people. Comic book companies are having a hard time surviving. So the market is now catering to our generation, really, the Gen X generation, I feel like, because we're the generation with the money now. We're the people that have the money to invest in buying toys like a man cave like Ed has with, you know, probably tens of thousands of dollars worth of toys back there. You know, we're that generation of spenders now, so culture is catering to us. What's the next one after us? It's millennials, I guess, after the Gen X, or is it the Gen Zs? Gen Zs. No.
Was it millennial and
it's vice versa?
Y, I think. Wasn't it
Gen X,
Y?
Gen Y, millennial, Gen Z.
Right. So the Gen Y generation, as they're now coming up, and now they're also, well, there you go. So I feel like there's a lot less of the geeks in that generation that there was in our generation. And then the next generation is a little bit less as well. So I feel like we've now peaked, and we're now, it's a cycle, right? Everything's always a cycle. And I think where we grew up with it, now it's our time. As we're going away, that whole wave is passing now.
You think there's fewer people into geek and nerd shit now than there was back in the 80s and 90s when there was no internet, no big movies, and just comic book and TV shows?
Truly, yes.
Oh, I couldn't disagree more. I'm so sorry. I couldn't disagree more.
I think there's more geeks now. The only thing is what they're interested in is what us old guys aren't interested in.
Well, that's a good point.
As Jeff used to call the weeb shit. You know, like
Jeff still calls it the weeb shit.
Well, I was giving you the benefit of the doubt on
No. Jeff still calls it the weeb shit. My apologies to any weebs watching this.
But that's the thing, like the stuff we're in, like as you said, Kingdom Come. You go to Con Bravo, it didn't hit. While like guys like us, we'd be like, oh shit, like Kingdom Come, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like same with like the new Flash trailer where they're showing Michael Keaton, you know, and little hints of Batman 89. I am all over that. While my kids, they're like, okay.
They don't care.
No.
Yeah.
No, because that's not their superhero.
Yeah.
Like
I'm not
they're
saying we aren't more susceptible to the nostalgia part that you're talking about. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But to say that geek and nerd stuff was more mainstream then than it is now is I'm sorry, man, it's ludicrous. All the
I'm not
TV
saying
shows,
it was more
all the
mainstream
movies.
then.
That's what I mean.
No,
There's
no.
way more geeks and nerds now than there have ever been.
it's
Ever.
it's widely acceptable now because like 1989 when I was starting grade 9 and Batman came out, I was so excited when Batman 89 came out. I couldn't even talk about it in school because if anyone found out I like Batman, like it would have been ostracized.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, well, crap, like, I got tattoos
But that
all over
doesn't
me of,
mean
like,
that there were less
geek
of
stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't mean there was less of us back then.
I
course it does.
definitely agree
But
with Ed
people
that
weren't vocal.
like when I was growing up past a pretty young age, if I talked about superheroes or comics at all, like I may as well just go home and stay home, like the Time Force Ranger that I talked about doing. When that was airing, if I had told anybody besides my friend Jason that I was watching Power Rangers, like I would have been laughed out of the school basically.
But this is what I'm saying. You guys are actually making my point. That won't happen now because so many other people are into the geek. And you can tell people you love Captain America now, and everybody's going to know what you're talking about, and they're going to be into it too.
Yes.
20 years ago, you couldn't do that. You were a nerd or a geek or a weeb or whatever. That's the point I'm trying to make. Culturally, it's bigger than it's ever been.
Yes, there you go.
That's what I mean. Yes.
Yes, culturally, it's bigger than it's ever been because, again, the geeks from back then are now the heads of the culture wave. We're the people that spend the money. We're the people. Geekdom has been turned into a business.
Right.
That's why it's so mainstream now. It's geekdom sold out.
Yeah, but did you ever think in a million years that a 10-year-old would know who Iron Man is?
No.
Of course not. He was a C-list character at best in the comics. Nobody gave a shit.
Well, especially back then.
That's what I'm saying. Sorry, go ahead, Ed.
Well, it's funny, JS, you mentioned like all my action figures behind me. You walk into any toy aisle at Toys R Us, Walmart, wherever, and look at who's in the toy aisle. It's guys who look like this. They're in their mid-40s. They're buying action figures or they're buying like the cards, like the Magic the Gathering and all that kind of stuff. You rarely ever see kids in the toy aisle anymore. And, even 10 years ago, I'm buying action figures and people say, oh, do you need a gift receipt on that? Yeah, sure. Now they don't even ask because even the people at Toys R Us, they know you're buying it for yourself. And, it's just, that's how the whole hobby has changed over the past 10, 15 years.
The stuff we geek on is not the stuff that our kids are geeking on.
No.
At all.
No. We are the niche geeks and now they're the mainstream geeks. It's just how it is. You know what I mean? Like there's no it's a cycle. Yeah, exactly. Like Star Wars, right? There's a Star Wars for everybody. Robbie, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Revenge of the Sith.
Shame. Anyways, moving on.
It's not my favorite Star Wars piece of media, but it's my favorite film.
That would be Clone Wars, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No.
Anyways,
no. Go ahead. Go.
When you were talking about a little kid knowing Iron Man, like I couldn't have been more floored at any point in my life than this 6-year-old kid walking up to me wanting a picture with Shazam. This little kid knew what Shazam was at any capacity.
Yeah,
it's mind blowing to me at this point because.
But that was because of the movie, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. But still,
because kids don't read comic books anymore.
No. But comic books are not the culture. The whole, like Ed was saying, all of it's the culture.
No. I get that.
Yeah,
even as a kid, like even as a little kid, when I went to school and talked about comic books, these other kids did not know who Captain Marvel was, who is now Shazam. So the fact that a little kid now even knows Shazam at all is mind blowing to me.
Great, actually.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, and even just to touch on Captain Marvel, if you look back in the early 90s or the mid 90s when DC's Captain Marvel had a resurgence. Mm-hmm. The Marvel version of Captain Marvel didn't even exist.
Yeah.
So the fact that, a couple of years ago, you get Captain Marvel come out and then Shazam, which technically, like even before that, Captain Marvel wasn't even that popular in the Marvel universe. So the fact that, like DC's Captain Marvel's kind of taken a back seat and is now known as Shazam.
I
guess
don't
just
know
the
a lot.
evolution of the culture.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Marvel's Captain Marvel. I was never into that comic. I've tried to read a couple of them, and I didn't like her. I found her arrogant. She wasn't nice to people. So I didn't read it.
She's
But
not the
my
big red
understanding,
cheese. I'll tell you that
well,
right now.
my understanding is they've canceled Captain Marvel and rebooted it 9 times in 7 years or something crazy like that.
I haven't read Captain. Marvel's Captain Marvel. I haven't read it since Kelly Sue DeConnick, like basically rebooted Ms. Marvel to become Captain Marvel, and like that's the version that the movie's
The original
based on. Yeah,
Yeah.
like or Carol
The
Danvers
original.
took on the
Yeah.
mantle
Yeah, this
of
version, yeah.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
So it, yeah, I haven't read that book since that one came out. But
If you guys, I know we kind of went off on a tangent, and I know I'm mostly responsible for that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
As we tend to do here on the channel. I had it written down. If you guys kind of had a wish list, and maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be for male cosplay, but for cosplay in general, if there was one thing that you could add to, change about, or something to do with the cosplay community, your wish list, what would that be? If you want to come at it from being a male cosplay perspective, by all means, but if you just want to talk about cosplay in general, go right ahead. What would you like to see in the community, either online or live? We've been talking a lot about doing it online, but even live. Is there something you'd like to see moving forward that's kind of been on your mind or kind of on your wish list that you think the community would benefit from or would be good for the community as a whole, or even just guys who do it in general?
I mean, for me, you know, I think it's, you know, I love fandom in general. I don't care what you're a fan of. If you're a fan of something, man, just eat it up, you know? Like, I'm a fan of all sorts of different things, and people will sometimes be funny to find out, you know, what type of stuff I'm into. You know, I one thing I would like to see is and this is more for us locally here because I think they do have one in the States, but a cosplay convention. Not a comic book convention, not an anime convention, not a sci-fi convention, a cosplay convention that really only features cosplayers. Doesn't matter what you're cosplaying. You know, an actual cosplay convention. That I think would be something that would be really cool. And I think they do have something like that in the U.S. I forget what they call it now.
they had one of those events.
It's massive too.
They had one of those come up to Canada years ago.
Costume Con is a fairly significant one, and it came up to Montreal a number of years ago.
Yeah,
and it really focused on maker.
Yeah, like I think it was more for like building and fabricating versus just buying it and throwing it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I like that idea. I would like to see something that's not necessarily focused on the vendors and selling stuff, more on the cosplay, like an event that you can cosplayers of all skill levels and abilities could be at, and not worry about having a vendor room and all that kind of stuff and panels, just, you know, almost like a big cosplay hangout. I would love to see something like that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Robbie?
Where my mind automatically goes when you talk about how to improve cosplay in general, or what you'd like to see, is just the community can be a little dramatic sometimes, you know, a lot of drama going around, and just if everybody could just be a little more respectful to each other.
Can't we all just get along?
Because that's like the only thing about cosplay that's negative at all to me, is just the way some people act, especially at cons. And you know, you just avoid those people. Obviously, you know, you guys and everyone that we hang out with when we are at cons together are all great people, but there's just people that I avoid like the plague at a con. So if you know, more people could act like all the people we associate with, that would make the whole community so much better, you know?
Well, I think that's where age comes into it too,
Of course.
because when I first started off in the cosplay community, you'd find out all about the drama, and then I would do certain interviews with you know websites and all that kind of stuff. And usually one of the questions is like, well, how do you handle cosplay drama? I'm like, first off, I don't even get involved in it. Like, I don't care what people say about other people. I just don't get into the rumor and innuendo. I just do my own thing. So, which I find with the gang that we've got, it's pretty easy going. And that's why I like the gang, the people we hang out with, because, there's none of the shit.
Absolutely.
I might be completely out to lunch here, but I feel like it's very cliquey as well. Lots of cliques when you go to cons, and when you're showing up at a con and you're in cosplay, especially if it's your first time cosplaying, and you're not going there with a bunch of other cosplayers, you're just getting dressed and going, and you come faced with all these cliques. It can be sometimes intimidating and a little I don't know if it's demoralizing, but kind of it's tough sometimes, especially if you're going there dressed as a specific character and you see somebody that is in a character that, like, if you're Robin and you're seeing Batman, and all of a sudden you want to take pictures with Batman and you want to hang out with Batman and you want to and I get, people have their friends in their groups and, et cetera, and that's fine. But be nice to people, guys. When you see people at cons, if you're a cosplayer, be nice to other cosplayers at cons. Don't be jerks.
Sound advice. That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, stop being jerks to each other.
Be nice. Jeez.
Yeah.
That French guy wants you to be nice to people. I think, for me, it's kind of plays off that, but I want more. I've been standing at the hill that I've chosen to die on most often is how cosplay is for everyone. So I don't care if you're tall or short, thick or thin, young or old, what color, what race, what gender, what ability. None of that should matter. If you put on a costume and you show up at a con, or you put on a costume and you post a picture online, you're a cosplayer. And the rest of the community has to get behind that more, excluding the people in this group, obviously, because this is why we all get along and why we hang out, because this is how we feel. But there's too many, not just the cliques, but the elitists in the community. And I feel like they're getting less and less, but those elitists that want to look down their nose at people because they don't have the suit right, or it's not screen accurate, or they didn't make every piece, or the seams aren't right, or the warble looks janky, or the foam is not cut right, or you bought it from China, or whatever noise they're going on about because they think they know what cosplay is better than you. They don't. They don't get to decide what cosplay is. Guess who gets to decide what cosplay is? You do, the cosplayer. And if that means you show up to a convention wearing a Deadpool hoodie and you say that you're cosplaying, guess what? You're cosplaying. And like you're saying, JS, we should rally around you and we should support you. And it shouldn't matter what level you're at or what grade it is or any of that. If you want to get into cosplay contests where they're going to judge how you've fashioned or made something, I encourage that. Go do that. I'm not saying don't do that, but don't judge others when they don't follow that path. Be accepting of everyone. Cosplay is literally for everyone, so make it for everyone. And like JS said, be nice.
Some of my greatest interactions at cons were with kids that had made their own costumes. Kids that had made their own costumes, and you could tell they're handmade by kids. But these kids are like so into it. Like, how can you not be into it when you see these kids that are so gung ho about seeing you in your costume, in their homemade costume? And it's,
oh my God,
to me, that makes my day. That's why I do it.
Ed and I used to run a cosplay contest at a con in near Barrie called Cottage Country Con, and the 1 year that we were there running that contest, they were Transformer kids, and obviously the parents had obviously helped them with the costumes, but they were like, what, Ed, like between like 5 and 8 years, they were like little kids. Yeah. And the costumes would literally transform. They would get down on their knees and they would get down and crawl, and they would turn into a car, for goodness sakes. And then they would stand up and they would be a robot. And it was the coolest, cutest thing you've ever seen in your life. So yeah, I agree with you, man. That's when you get them early indoctrinated like that, they're geeking out like that. That's just going to increase that level of acceptance. 100%. It's great. Future plans, guys. We've been on over an hour now, so we'll probably start to wind down a little bit because the old man's got to get his beauty sleep. As you can see, he needs a lot of it. What have you got on the go, future plans wise, as far as cosplays, as far as events go? I know we've got a bunch of backlog stuff, but I'm sure you guys aren't just sitting on your hands. I've talked to JS about what he's got coming up, and he's gonna thrill us with what he's got coming. But Ed, Robbie, what have you guys got in the works? What's the future plans going on?
Well, I just finished my Winter Soldier here.
I was just gonna say that arm is dope, dude.
So that is
looks
officially
amazing.
ready to go now. As far as stuff I'm working on, I've been working on, this is going to be a little niche, but a Kamen Rider Kuga, which is kind of like a sister series to Power Rangers in Japan. That's just something I've been working on a little bit here and there. It's a lot of foam work, so it'll take some time, but working on that. I got about halfway through doing the World War II Captain America from the MCU.
Nice.
Basically got to make, the belts, pockets, shield, and then that's pretty much complete. Besides that, I have some more Power Rangers that are commissioned, but that's about my list at the moment.
Ed, what's going on with you?
So for 2022, one of the plans is upgrading a lot of cosplays. So Red Guardian, I'm doing an upgrade on him because when I made my Red Guardian, it was off of a couple production stills in early 2020. So I've just purchased a new suit, bought the 3D print file for a new helmet. So I'm working on that. Working on a Snake Eyes costume. So a lot of 3D printing on that one. A few other projects on the go, like also Old Loki and a bunch of team up stuff with Allison. So working on stuff for Sylvie, working on stuff for Old Loki, working on stuff for regular Loki. Some more
Old Loki,
G.I.
you
Joe
mean
stuff.
like the older Loki from the show?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard E. Grant.
Richard E. Grant.
One
Murdered
of our goals. I as soon as I saw him, it was like I texted Ash and Jeff and my brother. I texted Ash and I said, "Well, I guess I got to be a Loki now because
Dude.
So our goal is
you're perfect for that.
Well, the goal is
that, yeah.
Allison and Allie cosplay. So Allison is going to do Sylvie. Ash is going to do Loki, and then I'm just going to be Richard E. Grant, Old Loki.
Yeah,
I already printed the horns for it.
Nice.
So we can do the glorious purpose.
Yeah, dude.
So,
dude, you're going to murder that. I can't wait for that.
I've also got the stuff for Mobius because actually when we had the barbecue this summer, I went to hug Ash and I looked over at Allison. I did the whole, "You're my favorite." So I've got all the stuff to do Mobius as well. So lots of TVA stuff for 2022.
JS, thrill us. I know what you got coming.
Well, so far I haven't worked on any of this yet.
No, I know.
It's all been my buddy Rob, my cosplay partner in crime. He's the one that did the electronics for our Predator suits, and we added sounds this year. But they were on buttons that we had to tape to our fingers, and it was just a pain in the butt. And he's figured out a way to put magnets in our glove and then put switches all over our suits. And when we move over the switches with the magnets, it activates the different sounds. So
yeah,
that's something he's working on to make our lives easier, and then we can potentially multiply sounds by however many we want now.
Cool.
We are planning. We're starting planning phase. He was supposed to actually start building prototype stilts. We're planning on doing a Transformers, like 10-foot tall, like massive giant Transformers.
I know. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so that's the next big one. I'm also potentially being commissioned by somebody that I cannot mention about maybe doing a Dr. Fate costume.
Very cool.
So I might be building a Dr. Fate costume.
Oh, did you see Robbie perk up? What?
Yeah. And guys, I am being featured in Cosplay Alliance magazine for the month of November.
Hey!
Or the Geeks and Company anyway is.
That's awesome.
Now, there's the cover person who has a bunch of pages in the book. Everybody else basically gets a page. We got a 5-page spread. in Cosplay Alliance magazine. So
Awesome, dude.
Thank you
Awesome.
very much to Anthony for the feature in the magazine.
Very cool.
So yeah, so things like that going on. But cosplay wise, like I said, the Transformers are going to be our next big thing. We just actually need to figure out the internal structure of how it's going to work, because the robot's going to be much bigger than we are, right? So we've got to figure out the whole internal skeleton, basically, of how it's going to work. And once we've got that figured out, then building the character will just, that'll
all
be
fall
fun
into
part.
place.
So
Sweet.
do you know what Transformers you guys are doing?
Yes and no. We got a couple of different options. We're either gonna do Prime and Megatron, or Megatron and Starscream, or Prime and Bumblebee. I'm pushing for Megatron and Starscream personally, just because we can have that whole Megatron, shitting on Starscream all the time, and we can add sounds to it, and that would be amazing at a con. But I don't know.
GJS, which one are you going to be, Megatron or Starscream?
You know what? If we do Megatron or Starscream, I could do either. To be honest, I wouldn't mind. If we're doing Prime and Megatron, I want to be Megatron.
All right, all
yes.
right, that's fair.
See,
yes.
If you take my 2 cents worth, I would always have Optimus Prime is number one. Always. Optimus Prime is my favorite Transformer. So if you have Optimus Prime there, I will geek the hell out.
Yeah, well, if you guys follow the Instagram page, I'll be posting some pictures as we start building and developing, and hopefully, crossing our fingers, we can get these ready for Fan Expo. I mean, if we build them as big as I'm thinking I want to build them, we're getting to rent like a moving truck, like a cube van, to bring these things downtown Toronto. But we'll see. I'm assuming Jeff is now gone to grab whatever he's working on to show us.
Okay.
Which I've already got a sneak peek of last week, or maybe not. No? Jeff? I thought you were going to go grab what you're working on next. You're on mute, by the way, bud.
Yeah, sorry. A piece came in, so everybody knows what I'm working on because my post that got all the ridiculous amount of likes. So the plans for 2022, Ted Cord version of Blue Beetle to go with my brother Mike and his Booster Gold. The Robert Pattinson version of Batman, which is to date only the second version of Batman that I've ever, and the only live action version of Batman I've ever wanted to do. And then Cobb Vanth, the Timothy Olyphant player from The Mandalorian. That was the Marshal in the one episode.
Now, Cobb Vanth as in the Boba suit?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I have everything else. I had a custom shirt done, the shirt that he wears underneath. Obviously, I have a red scarf. I got 14 red scarves from doing Negan for so many years. The pants and everything else is fine. But yeah, it's nothing without the Boba armor. So even if I don't have the helmet right away, I have to have the chest piece and the gauntlets and stuff. So yeah, but
that's what I wanted to see. Nice.
So my goggles for Blue Beetle.
Very cool.
Have come in. So again, doing the Ted Cord version. So I couldn't find ones that were this size that had clear glass, but I'm actually kind of digging the fact that they're mirrored. At least the style is the closest I could get to the Ted Cord style of Blue Beetle goggles. And I have the 3D printed suit. I already have all that as well. So it's literally just the belt pouch accessories and such. And then Blue Beetle's done, and I get to go out and be a super nerd. So it's gonna be good. It looks, by the way, it looks terrible. It's ridiculous. Like there's no, it's just a flat print. There's no shading on it or anything. It looks awful, and I can't wait. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, just want to show that off. I have pieces of the Cobb Vanth that I've contacted the guy in Russia about off of Etsy about the Robert Pattinson Batman, and he's going to basically build me the entire top half of the suit. So. And if you look at all the trailers and stuff, the bottom half of his suit is literally just pants and a holster. Like he's not, he doesn't have like they're tack pants or whatever. So, and boots, and I already have the boots. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
Cool.
Yeah. JS, do you want to lead us out? We've been on for an hour and 15. Do you want to help wrap up the?
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we go, does anybody want to pitch anything? Your Instagrams, any websites, anything like that? No, nobody.
Sure. Just my Instagram.
Well, for me, so if you look right here.
Yeah, Snowhawk Cosplay right below. That's your Instagram. Grace and Grid Cosplay. That's your Instagram.
Yep.
You know what, guys? I'm gonna link them below.
Yeah.
How's that?
Sounds good.
I'm linking them below.
Okay.
Messiah Complex
No,
Cosplay.
you find me on all.
Oh, go ahead, Ed.
Oh no, as I was about to say, like all social media, you can find me on Snowhawk Cosplay. It's my brand on every platform, so you can find me there.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Hey,
Yeah,
guys.
same guys. You already know that's I do the spiel every week. But yeah, Messiah Complex Cosplay across all social media. We actually lost the domain for www.messiahcomplexcosplay.com briefly, but we have it back now. So, and I'm going to be working with the gentleman that's going to be administering my website in the very near future, and it will get built. I know I've been saying that the whole time, but it will get built and it will be built very soon. So, yeah. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise,
Very
that's
cool.
It. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you leave us a like and subscribe. I mean, actually, we also didn't pitch the fact that if you don't usually want to sit through an hour of watching us, you can always listen to us online on your favorite podcast platform. If you go to Google, search for Geek Boutique Podcasts, you'll find us right away. Should have probably mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, but for anybody that's still watching, you can find us there. Like I said, thanks everybody for coming with us. I mean, even if I got a little heated earlier about, how I felt about that whole thing, hopefully nobody is getting offended and I ain't getting canceled, but you know what, guys, thanks for watching. Stay geeky. We'll see you next week.
Peace out, guys. Love you.